Thanks for downloading a 3CR podcast. 3CR is an independent community radio station based in Melbourne, Australia. We need your financial support to keep going. Go to www.3cr.org.au for more information and to donate online. Now stay tuned for your 3CR podcast.
Sabah al-Khair, good morning dear listeners. You're listening to Radio 3CR on 855 AM and Palestine Remembered with Robert Martin, Nasser Mashni and Yusuf Ahmed al-Rimawi.
Palestine Remembered is Australia's only English-language radio program that is totally dedicated to Palestine. We'd like to welcome those listening on 855 and those that will join us on podcast at 3cr.org.au.
Thanks for joining us. Stay with us and enjoy the episode.
Good morning, Nasser and Robert.
Good morning, boys.
Good morning, listeners.
You
Good
are
morning,
back.
Gentlemen.
We're back. Sadly, more Palestinian deaths, but we're back, and we wish all of our listeners and those in Palestine a Ramadan Kareem, and God willing, their fasts and prayers will be heard and listened to. But sadly, another week of carnage, Yusuf.
The death toll in Gaza made it to more than 100 shaheed, 110 maybe?
110, yeah.
Since March the 30th, since the land day. 62 of whom were on one day.
Yeah. So I think the word carnage is probably not the word to use. It's a massacre, a premeditated massacre by the Israeli government. The clearly having license to shoot, and they're shooting, disabled people. They're shooting press. They killed a number of press. 11 press people, reporters, were shot on that day. 11 of them.
There's one of them, a person you know, Robert.
It was disappointing. I saw the photo of Mottersum going around and I shared it. And, it was a few days later that I realised, in fact, it was him. And he's been shot twice, Mottersum. So very, very sad. I speak to him, quite often from Gaza. He's a reporter, clearly a reporter. And in fact, he did an article 2 days before that about how Israel were shooting at the press. And so, a lot of people are saying that, it was premeditated for him. But the fact that, the Israeli government is enabling this, and I suppose our government is not saying anything other than that Israel has the right to defend itself. Which
in fact, more than that, we had Turnbull say that Hamas is pushing people to the fence, when in reality the Great Return March was done without civil society, without Hamas approval. They was the thoughts of one activist within Gaza, and then it grew legs of its own. Now, since then, Hamas certainly has jumped on because they saw the will of the people is that way, and so any political party will follow. And should also be remembered, they're talking about the border. There is no border. Israel is 70 years old and still hasn't declared a border. This line between Gaza, a bit of Palestine, and the rest of Palestine is an armistice line. A line drawn in 1949 that was the cessation of the war or violence, if you will. It was the cessation. It's not a border. These are people, 2 million Gazans, 70% of whom are refugees who want to go home. One of the conditions on Israel's ascension to the United Nations was the full implementation of 194. And 194 says you must allow the refugees to come home, compensate them for any loss, and those that don't want to, give them some cash, yeah? Very simple things, and any normal country would do this, yeah?
That's fair.
The reality is the settler colonialist ideology of Zionism needed the land without the people. And so they said they would.
They agreed.
That they would apply 194, that they would do a deal, that they would allow those to come home that wanted to come home and repatriate those that didn't want to and give compensation. But now, 70 years later, still nothing. 11 years...
On this point, Nasser, this makes the international recognition of Israel invalid. Because because Israel was recognized by the world, not all the world, on the provision of recognizing the refugees' right of return, or the 194 resolution, like we all know. But because Israel has never and will never implement that, it makes the international recognition invalid.
It makes them, and they should be removed from the United Nations and be treated as the pariah they are. Now, these people, 2 million Palestinians within Gaza, and we've spoken about Gaza before, about the siege and the inhumanity and the barbarity. But we've got people now. The UN is saying that by 2020, Gaza is going to be unlivable, the highest unemployment rate in the world. You've got 2 million people who are starved of hope, opportunity, food, travel, education. These people now say, I'm walking home. Now, we have to remember that the border, inverted commas, is an electrified fence.
There's also a buffer zone too.
There's mines. The buffer zone, I mean, they shoot anybody anytime they want. They don't need a buffer zone to stop that. But people need to know that there's a buffer zone, because Israel, when they wanted to, a couple of years ago, decided they needed more of a buffer zone. And so they went in there and they bulldozed a whole lot of homes and they moved everything. So there's 2 actual fences there. They can get through one. It's not actually anywhere near Israel yet. So these people just want to go home. I mean, you cannot get more of a Martin Luther King moment or a Gandhian moment than people peacefully walking towards a fence that is separating them from refugee status to their homes. Non-violent, unarmed, civilian protesters endeavouring to enact their inalienable right to return to their ancestral lands and their homes. And they are treated in the most horrific manner, executed in cold blood. Now, the most famous wall that we know is the Berlin Wall. And as the Berlin Wall fell, these walls will fall and Palestine will be reunited. In the 28 years that the Berlin Wall was in existence, the East Germans killed less people who were trying to flee from East Germany to West Germany. The East Germans killed in 28 years less people than Israel killed on Tuesday.
Wow.
Yeah? Wow. 28 years. Less people than Israel killed on Tuesday. Today, as you know, I'm sure you heard, there was a walkout. Nikki Haley walked out of the UN Security Council because she was so upset with at least 10 and up to, I think, about 11 members of the Security Council saying that they wanted to issue a statement against Israel. The British Foreign Minister, the German Chancellor Angela Merkel wants an investigation. The British Foreign Minister said, "You can't. This has got to stop. We need, to have an investigation, and Israel's got to restrain itself."
South Africa called its ambassador.
Turkey the same.
And Kuwait is also mobilizing a motion in the United Nations in the name of the Arab countries.
The thing that we've got to talk about is this all happened because of Tuesday. The magic amount of Palestinian blood has been shed that some people are saying something. There is a magic amount of blood. I wish I knew what the magic amount of blood is, but obviously for us now we've worked out it's 110 bodies. Maybe it's an 8-month-old girl. Maybe it's 60 in one day. But we've crossed the threshold now of blood. This has been happening for 5 weeks before Tuesday, Yusuf. We've spoken about Land Day. We spoke about that on March 30 on the commemoration of Land Day.
I think also the provocative from an observable point of view, on the same day, Netanyahu and Ivanka Trump were celebrating the movement of the embassy to Jerusalem. So that contrast made people go furious. I have received messages from people who never showed public solidarity with Palestine on that particular day, saying, "Yusuf, this is unacceptable." People from India, people from all around the world. I mean, within my small circle of friends, people started sending me letters and messages of solidarity simply because they visualized that level of injustice in their face.
But I don't think you can have a country such as Israel that has all the American-made weapons and the snipers to be able to take out 60-plus people that had barbecues going, singing and dancing, doing all of these sorts of things, and not get on the news, because they are basically killing a civilised society that is just completely unarmed. There has been no proof of any weapons or anything.
They posed zero threat.
It's zero threat. Zero threat. So any other country in the world that did this would be, a pariah state straight away.
Also on this point, they keep inviting Hamas. I have to say something. As a Palestinian, and people who know me, they know my views on Hamas. But nevertheless, Hamas is a Palestinian movement. There's a big portion of the Palestinian population who support Hamas, and Hamas is not a terrorist organization. I might disagree with Hamas on the way they took control over Gaza and how they held power at the expense of the livelihood of Gaza, but this is a Palestinian affair, and that does not make them terrorist organization.
Well, the fact is that those people that were going to the border, the people's mums and dads, children, people that were in wheelchairs, people that had no legs because their legs had been blown off previously. So it has nothing to do with Hamas or any political party. These are the mums and the dads saying that I want to go home, as Nasser was saying. It's plain and simple. And everyone's been saying that it's all to do with the moving of the embassy. Well, the Nakba has been going for 70 years, as you just said. They have been doing this for 70 years. It basically is saying this is the worst day of history of ours. We were dispossessed. We have never been allowed to go home. Let us go home. But we're getting executed.
And the important thing that it brings the Palestinian-Israeli confrontation to the root issue of refugees. And 70 years later, the third and fourth generation of the Nakba generation are carrying the torch of return, and they are reminding themselves, they are reminding the Arabs, they are reminding the Muslim world and the world that there will never be a day that Palestinians will just drop their inalienable right of return. And this is not just an issue of rhetorics. This is not an issue where we remember on Nakba Day, we say a couple of words, we feel good about it, we share a few posts, and then we move on. In fact, even Palestinians who are silent about the Nakba rhetorics carry that latently inside, and there will never be a point where Palestinians will just say, you know what, we accept the defeat and we concede the loss, and that's it. Khalas, we will live wherever we are. Yes, the status quo. Yes, we do have to live in where we are, especially in the Arab countries. The majority of the Palestinian population are in the Arab countries. And we always call for better treatment of Palestinians in the Arab countries and giving them equal rights, or better rights at least. But that does not make us forget the core of the core and the root of the Palestinian issue, which is basically the 48 expulsion of 2/3 of the Palestinian society.
ويل
listening to 3CR Palestine Remembered at 8:55 AM.
Nasser and Robert, the Palestinians around the world are commemorating the 70th anniversary of Nakba. Now, the big question, what does that mean to the Palestinians? I don't think we can cover that in the remaining part of the episode. But before that, I want to mention what we are doing here in Melbourne this Saturday.
On Saturday at 12 o'clock at the State Library, we'll be having a rally and a demonstration to commemorate 70 years of dispossession of Palestine, but also to remind the world and our supporters and Australians of good conscience that what's happening now in Palestine and particularly in Gaza is unacceptable, that we're holding our government to account, that they need to immediately, I think as a minimum, expel the Israeli ambassador, recall the Australian ambassador, and institute a boycott, divestment and sanctions campaign on the State of Israel until it abides by all international laws. Now, I think I might have more chance of winning Tatslotto than all of that coming about.
I think there's more chance of me actually giving birth myself. So,
well, that's a zero. That's a zero.
But reality, Tatslotto is more than zero.
Well, Tatslotto is one in whatever.
I'm telling you, it's zero.
It's zero today, but we should hold ourselves to a moral standard higher and an expectation of our elected officials higher than the ones they hold for themselves. And because the reality is this embassy that opened on Tuesday, one day is going to be a museum for apartheid. It's going to be a museum for apartheid.
It's actually, the Americans have started the building of another settlement.
Yeah.
It's not just an embassy, it's another settlement. But we also have to recognize the great work of some of our elected MPs, particularly Janet Rice from the Green, and Maria Van Vacchino from the Labour. I don't want to leave out other names who spoke or will speak about the rejection of the massacre against civilians, unarmed civilians in Gaza.
So, listeners, that's in only a few hours from now, 12 o'clock, State Library, for a couple of hours. So please join us there for our rally to asking for the end of the occupation, for the right of refugees to return, and for Palestinians to be given self-determination.
Now, when we talk about Nakba, we're talking about 3 or 4 generations. Those who were fathers or young men at Nakba time in 48, now we're talking about their children and their grandsons and then the 4th generation. So maybe if we start by, let's say, from the period of 48 to 52 and try to imagine and reimagine what was in the mind and hearts of those who actually were driven out of their homes.
And we spoke Ramini a few weeks ago. He was 5 when it happened.
And Jafar actually spoke about it as if it happened yesterday. And we saw how touched he was.
Very emotional.
Very emotional when he remembered the first few days when the city of Jenin was flooded by migrants from the Haifa villages. So the first 4 or 5 years were marked with emotions of disbelief, shock, and uncertainty. They could not believe that it happened. They could not believe that they will not be able to return. And they didn't know that they will spend the rest of their lives and the lives of their next generations in wherever they ended up after Nakba. But also, one thing in addition to uncertainty, the negligence of the world, how they were abandoned for 4 years without international aid.
I was just going to say that Dr. Ramzi Barouj is here. He's done a book, and he was speaking the other night, and when his parents left, the father was saying, and it's a running joke now, His fathers were saying that, should we take the good blankets or the old blankets? And they decided to take the old blankets because they didn't want to dirty the new blankets because they thought they were going to come back in a few days.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's obviously how it worked. And just why I'm mentioning Ramsey, I should just mention his book because it is an opportunity for people outside the Palestinian cause to really appreciate and empathise with what it means for up to the fourth generation. And the book is called The Last Earth, A Palestinian Story by Ramsey Baroud. And there's also an Australian girl, her story's in there as well, and she's in her mid-20s now, and how it's affected her because it does carry on.
Now, Nasser, I want to ask you, do you think that we Palestinians have told our story enough? I know the level of difficulty when it comes to opening the wound of Nakba, but do you think that we, as a population, as a society, have told the non-Palestinians about our stories, about our Nakba stories enough?
No, we haven't. And I remember, a good friend of my father's who's since passed, as obviously has my dad, but he said to my dad, I want to record your story. And the reality is my dad was old, and he wasn't 5, and he wasn't 10. My dad was in his late teens. And so, in fact, not even late teens, he was, late teens when the Nakba happened. And for him, it was, first person personal. He was not just a little bit old enough. He was fighting in the war. He was aware of it. And the death and misery that he saw, his friends being executed and hung in front of him, those memories were just so painful. He couldn't talk about it. So I had almost 40 years with him in my life, before he passed, and my entire bits and pieces, so I have a very, very, 8 pieces of a 200-piece jigsaw puzzle.
Okay.
So the story is so small, and because it's so harrowing, one of the things that we must do, it's essential for us to do, is to make the narrative, our narrative. At the moment, whenever, Palestinians are brought to anything, we're the counter-narrative. The existing narrative is the Israeli side, And
they seem to have done a better job in terms of...
And we're the counter-narrative. So here's the story and here's the other side. No. We're the story. They are the other side.
Mm-hmm.
They got here 70 years ago. Allegedly, Benjamin Netanyahu is related to Jesus. I mean, I can't see that.
He may actually think he's Jesus.
I can't see that. But they are the counter-narrative.
So while I acknowledge the pain and the difficulty of your father, Allah's mercy be on his soul, to open and to talk about his journey, I see that, but we seem to have missed out.
Oh, no, absolutely.
And the story seems to have gone untold.
Oh, it has gone untold. And Yusuf, as you know, I think there's been more than a number of programs going around recording the testimonies of our elders. And we lost many of those testimonies in 1982 when the Israelis purposefully
took the archives.
Took the archives. We've lost many of those stories in 1948 with the establishment of the State of Israel, when they stole all of our libraries. This is,
and they put it under AP, absent property.
Absent property. And those books and those archives are still there, trapped. Absolutely. This is the thing about. I was speaking to an Indigenous brother for his radio program on Nakba only a day ago out of the Northern Territory. His name's Bo, and I was speaking to Bo about the similarities between the Indigenous struggle for rights here in Australia and ours. The similarities are with, as we've done that show a few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago, where we talked about health rates and stuff. The dispossession of the Indigenous people in Australia is 200 years plus going, and so there is no first party stories.
No.
The history, there are no photographs, there's
no visual record,
the documentation is very fragile because the British were very keen not to put too much in writing. Whereas our dispossession is within our lifetimes, within the lifetimes of people that are alive, And there is evidence. But settler colonialism can only exist upon the erasure or the creation of terra nullius. You need zero people on the land, a wipeout. And to do that, you have to erase memory. You have to erase culture. You have to erase
Which
people.
is another reminder that we Palestinians should resist that by telling the story.
Absolutely.
And I remember my father, because I'm lucky that my father is still alive and also is a historian. So he was 3 when Nakba happened, and they used to live near the sea. And he told me that when they went to Beit Rima, the village, his favorite spot in the new home was the part that overlooks the wheat field, because the wheat fields with wind, it moves like ocean, it moves like waves. It reminded him of the ocean. So to him, he saw that this is the other sea. So he remembers vividly that he chose to be there, and that was his first poem that he wrote without words in his mind. And I would say that it is also in our culture, the Palestinian culture, that we rely on oral storytelling as opposed to documenting in writing and in maybe novels or short stories, like, for example, Ramzi's book, which is a brilliant idea, and we need to see more of it. And therefore, I encourage every Palestinian who is listening to us to reach out to those who have the story, and to try to find ways of getting the story, and maybe later we can see how we can make them into books or even audio or video. Now people have audio, access to YouTube, their Facebook Live, different ways where they can spread the story.
Yeah, they tape it on their phone, share it on Facebook. We need a central repository for all of these.
So
things.
in the 70th anniversary of Nakba, it is another reminder of us Palestinians to tell the story, to tell our narrative, because it's not a counter narrative like Nasser said. It is the narrative of the Palestinian struggle for justice and freedom. So in the last few seconds, anything we want to add, Nasser and Robert?
My thoughts are with the Palestinians for what they've gone through, and the Palestinians abroad, such as you guys, and a lot of them that I saw on Tuesday. They were doing a vigil. To see people breaking down in tears and crying for their brothers and sisters, it's horrific and it's unacceptable, and we need to do something. So, my thoughts are with you.
Come along 12 o'clock today, State Library, and we hope to see you there.
And with this, we have come to the end of another edition of Palestine Remembered. Thank you for being with us, and remember to tune in next Saturday, same time. This is Robert, Nasser, and Youssef wishing you the best of time, and salam.
Salam.